Good morning. Today on Spotlight, a conversation with Lech Walesa. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a former president of Poland, and a man widely credited with helping to bring down the Iron Curtain 30 years ago. I caught up with him when he was in town recently, visiting and speaking at Oakland University in Rochester, proudly wearing his T-shirt that reads the Constitution in Polish. We talked about the world today. And later, we'll catch up with Anika Goss, the executive director of Detroit Future City. She has a fascinating study about the latest perceptions of our city. It's Sunday, November the 24th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Mr. President, 30 years ago, you delivered a powerful message here in the United States to our Congress. You're back now. What message do you want to deliver to America today?
30 lat temu miał Pan takie mocne przesłanie w Kongresie. Wrócił Pan po 30 latach. Jakie przesłanie ma dzisiaj Pan dla Ameryki?
Zakończyliśmy epokę strasznych podziałów, która hamowała rozwój świata.
We ended up the era of very, very deep divisions that hampered the progress of the world.
Udało nam się. Pięknie, solidarnie skończyliśmy z niedobrym podziałem.
We succeeded in doing that beautifully in solidarity. We really put an end to this, put the end to the divisions.
Ale po tym podziale musimy coś zbudować w tamto miejsce.
But now we need to construct something else to replace the old world with the divisions.
I tutaj nie idzie nam za dobrze.
And we're not very good at doing that.
Jedna epoka padła, druga nie powstała.
One era came to an end, it collapsed. The other one has not really taken the final shape yet.
I to, w czym się znaleźliśmy, to ja nazywam epoka słowa, epoka dyskusji.
And we are in between the two, and which the era which I refer to as the era of the word, of debate.
Na przykład, jaka rola Stanów Zjednoczonych w tej nowej epoce?
Debating, for example, on the role of the United States in the new era.
Tam było przywództwo imperium dobra.
In the past, it used to be the leadership of the good empire.
Ale dlatego, że było imperium zła.
It was the good empire because there existed the evil empire.
Nie ma imperium zła, no to jaka rola Stanów?
The evil empire is no longer around, and therefore what should be the role for the United States?
Wydyskutujmy.
This is the topic for our debate. We'll have to discuss it.
Jest zbędne przewodzenie Stanów Zjednoczonych światu.
It's obvious that the world badly needs the leadership of the United States,
Ale w innym stylu.
but a totally different manner of leadership than before.
Pierwsze pytanie jest, jaki fundament tej nowej budowli po komunizmie?
The first question being, what should serve as the foundation for the new structure that we want to raise in the world without communism?
Jaki system ekonomiczny?
What should serve as an effective economic system for this new
Na
structure?
pewno gospodarka wolnorynkowa.
Certainly, we need to keep the free market economy as an element of this new economic system.
Ale w ten stary kapitalizm był wyścig szczurów między państwami, ścigaliśmy się.
But in the old capitalism, there was so much rivalry. One country competed against the other. It was like a rat's race.
Teraz ściganie kończy się,
We no longer racing
bo to wspólny interes.
because we all
Globalizacja.
share the same interest. It is our shared interest and common interest in the globalized world.
Technologię, którą zbudowaliśmy, ta technologia nie mieści się w naszych państewkach.
The technologies that we have invented can no longer be confined within small countries.
A rozwiązania mamy z tamtej epoki.
Meanwhile, we continue adopting solutions that come from the old era.
Stany mają przewodzić w nowych rozwiązaniach.
The United States should be the leader to the world in implementing new solutions.
Nie robić za wszystkich.
Not doing the job for everyone else in the world, not giving monies
Inicjatywy,
everywhere,
pomysły, zachęcania.
but coming up with initiatives, with encouragement, with ideas.
Bo masy naciskają.
Because the ordinary masses of ordinary people are pressing
Masy
us.
czują konieczność zmiany.
They feel the urgency of some change to be introduced.
Stąd wybierają ludzi, którzy mówią, że będą zmieniać.
That's why the masses elect as their leaders individuals who claim that they will introduce change.
A jak nie ma rozwiązań, to budzą się nacjonalizmy i demony stare.
However, if we do not really have good solutions for the future. What happens is that nationalism awaken, all demons of the past wake up.
Tylko dlatego, że nie ma przyszłościowych dobrych rozwiązań.
And this is happening only because we do not have good solutions for the future.
I znajdziemy rozwiązania, czy demony zniszczą nas?
So the question is, will we find the appropriate solutions, or will the demons of the past destroy us?
Is he disappointed with President Trump's leadership as America appears to be moving closer and closer to nationalism, something that he has not embraced?
Czy pan jest w takim razie zawiedziony polityką Trumpa w momencie, kiedy wydaje się, że Ameryka zbliża się do nacjonalizmów coraz bardziej, który pan zresztą potępia?
Nie. Trump ma diagnozę właściwą.
Let me rephrase it differently. Trump has got a very good diagnosis and appropriate diagnosis of the situation.
Wszystko, co próbuje zmienić, trzeba zmienić.
All the reforms he wants, all the things that he wants to reform need change.
I tu ma rację.
And in this he is right.
Natomiast źle leczy.
However, the treatment he wants to apply is not appropriate. He is not really finding the right solutions to the problems he sees.
I dlatego jestem za, a nawet przeciw. Do połowy tak, a do połowy nie.
So my favorite saying is, I'm both in favor and against. That means I halfly approve of this and halfly disapprove.
And is he comfortable with the relationship that President Trump has with Russian President Putin?
Czy panu podobają się relacje, jakie ma Trump z prezydentem Rosji, Putinem?
Znaczy, rozmawiać trzeba.
Of course, I think that politics is about talking.
Ale trzeba rozmawiać jeszcze z paroma innymi ludźmi, żeby była dobra rozmowa. Żeby nie było podejrzane.
For the talk to be good and not suspicious, you need other people to be there so that no suspicions arise.
Putin to bardzo przebiegły polityk.
Because Putin is a very crafty politician.
Bardzo doświadczony.
Really experienced in politics.
Nie wiem, na ile prezydent Trump.
And I'm not fully aware how experienced President Trump is as a politician.
Ale ja bym proponował mu jednak, żeby zawsze jeszcze z kimś był.
So my suggestion to him would be to have some company in any talks.
Coming up, Lech Walesa on labor unions today. Has he been following the UAW here in the United States and the controversy involved with some of the corruption within the UAW, and what concerns does he have that message that sends to the entire world labor movement?
UNW is...
The United Auto Workers.
Aha, czy pan śledził tutaj jakieś kwestie korupcji w związku zawodowym, największym związku zawodowym producentów samochodów? Czy coś pan o tym wie? Jakie to jest przesłanie dla świata, dla ruchu związkowego?
Ja pracuję na innych trochę obrotach, na innych falach.
Well, I don't think I work exactly on all the wavelengths.
Ja inną rolę sobie przypisałem, a więc nie kontrolę, to mnie nie obchodzi.
And I guess I have assigned myself a slightly different role than controlling things.
Ja inicjuję dyskusję,
my role is
podpowiadam tematy.
To encourage a debate, to come up with topics that need debating.
Uważam, że związki zawodowe były, są i będą potrzebne.
And as for unions, labor movement, I will always claim that they have always been needed and will continue be needed.
Ale wciąż trochę inne.
Obviously, also transforming in order to face the new circumstances in the world.
Jutro spodziewam się, że będziemy wszystkie porozumienia robić w trójkącie równobocznym.
And I foresee that tomorrow we will reach agreements on any issue in a three-partite, in a triangle arrangement.
Pierwszy bok trójkąta, związki zawodowe, organizacje społeczne.
The first side of the triangle constituted by labor movement, social organization.
Drugie, właściciele środków produkcji.
The other side, business owners, those who own the assets.
Trzecie, rządy zarządzające do rządu włącznie.
And the third side, local governments and then up to the federal government, let's to say.
Będziemy się spotykać na różnych wysokościach zorganizowania.
And we will meet in such triangles at different levels of our administrative structure.
Czy przygotowaliście swoje żądania na jakimś nośniku?
The second question will be, have you brought your demands or your claims on a kind of a career, CD-ROM or whatever?
Wrzucamy do komputera.
We enter these into the computer.
Trzecie pytanie, w ilu wersjach chcecie mieć odpowiedź na wasze problemy?
And the next question will be, how many optional scenarios of the answer do you want to have?
Komputer odpowiada.
The computer will provide you with
Jest
it.
czwarte pytanie, kiedy się spotykamy, aby jedną z tych wersji wybrać do realizacji?
And the fourth question will be, when shall we meet again in order to decide which of the scenarios we are going to choose?
Bez emocji, bez strajku, bez walki, przeliczone, wyliczone.
This will be totally emotionless, without any strikes, without any fight, all coolly calculated, the best answers
Od
possible.
dawna jest to możliwe, tylko nie chcą zrobić.
I'm sure we have been able to introduce this for a long, long time, but people are unwilling to do
Bo chcą
it
zabierać.
because they want to take more for themselves, and that's it.
Quick final question.
Ostatnie szybkie pytanie.
How does he want the world to remember him?
Jakby pan chciał, żeby świat pana zapamiętał?
Nie, niech w ogóle nie pamiętał.
Let them forget me.
Thank you. I don't think that'll happen.
Jak pan wie, jestem człowiekiem wierzącym.
And as you know, I'm a man of religious faith.
Dla mnie dobrze,
In my faith there is hell, and
jakbym niedobrze pracował, to tam trafię.
and you know, bad guys go to hell, and if I were working badly, I could end up
A tam
there.
na kierowniczych stanowiskach jest Lenin, Stary, Hitler.
And there, you know, you've got Lenin, Stalin, and Hitler highly positioned in hell.
A ja taki mały szatanek.
And I was only a minor devil,
Gdyby mnie
so
byłem biły.
they could really torture me if I ended up there.
Muszę robić wszystko,
So
by
I
tam nie trafić.
really have to do everything I can to avoid ending up
Ale
there.
oni też Amerykanów nie lubili.
But beware, they didn't like Americans either.
Starajcie się,
So
by tam nie trafić.
make sure you don't end up there yourselves.
And when Spotlight returns, an interview with Anika Goss, leader of Detroit Future City. I caught up with her at our downtown studio a couple days ago. New report out.
Yes.
What are the findings?
So I think the big highlights is that national business leaders are really seeing Detroit as a positive investment opportunity, where they are really finding that the work we're doing here is reflecting in their investment choices. So actually, national business leader positive, how they felt about Detroit as an investment opportunity was up 23% than when we looked last year.
And when you looked at the report and started to drill down in it,
Yeah.
what were the factors that are making them have a different perception about Detroit? Because we've
Yeah.
all been around here long enough to know that at one time, the perception of Detroit was very negative. The
Yeah.
stereotypes were really strong. And wherever you go outside this city and you tell someone you're from Detroit, you start getting those eyeballs rolling. I don't encounter that now.
Right. No, I don't think you. I don't either.
Yeah.
When I'm traveling, I think what they're really recognizing is the positive changes that are happening in Detroit. They're beginning to see not only just the positive changes, but also how we talk about Detroit. That this is a place that is friendly for business. It's friendly for national business investment. And we're beginning to see more and more investors really looking to Detroit as a competitive market for to place their either headquarters or other offices for their businesses.
And is this particularly the city of Detroit, or is it the Detroit region, or is it all together?
So we asked national business leaders about Detroit, the city specifically. So we weren't necessarily looking at the region. In the report, however, we did ask both suburbanites and Detroiters about how they felt about redevelopment and new investment that was happening in Detroit, as well as in their own suburban communities.
And then what did you see in the report that made you say, okay, we still have work to do here? We aren't at the home stretch at this point.
Well, I think there were two really important things to note. So one, national business leaders still thought Detroit was in bankruptcy.
Really?
Not all of them, but there was a significant, about a third, that still thought, a little more than a third actually.
Didn't realize that the bankruptcy is behind us now.
Right, 5 years ago. And so I think it's important for, even though that happened 5 years ago, and most of us here in Detroit feel like that's behind us, I think it's important to talk about our recovery as a business opportunity. All of the work that's happened since the bankruptcy is valuable, and it should be a valuable part of our narrative post-bankruptcy. That this can be a positive part of the narrative for civic leadership, but I also think it's even the stories. So how we shape the media stories about what's new business in the neighborhoods.
So it's my industry too that plays a major role in that.
Yeah, I think we just don't really talk about it. It's not news anymore. But post-bankruptcy should be news, and it should be positive news, because it is. And I think that the more we can talk about it positively, the more we'll begin to see national business leaders even thinking that the government is being well run, and understanding that how different our government is running now than it was 10 years ago while it was before it went into bankruptcy. I also think one thing that came out of the study was that there's still a lot of work to be done in the neighborhoods.
Yes.
And while generally...
And we know that.
Yeah, we all know that. And this is an obvious statement I'm going to make, but I think it's worth noting, is that when we took the surveys of Detroit residents, those residents where you saw positive changes happening in their neighborhoods were really feeling positive about redevelopment and new investment in general in Detroit, right? But those neighborhoods where you saw less investment, or that were recognizing less change, or maybe things have even gotten worse, really were negative about redevelopment in general. So I think it really...
And was part of that probably they felt like, well, if there is development, it's all downtown and midtown,
and it's not
and it
for me.
hasn't trickled into my neighborhood
That's
yet.
exactly right. And we really need to be able to find better ways to create opportunity for those places where we know it's going to take longer to redevelop in the city. In the demographic section of the report, we made sure that we really had a mix of people who have been in Detroit for a really long time and who are also newcomers, older Detroiters as well as younger Detroiters.
Right, because the city is indeed changing. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with a few more questions.
Great.
We'll be right back with Anika Goss. Anika, what's next for Detroit Future City? You have this major report.
Right.
Hopefully people are paying great attention to this report.
I hope so.
and what has come out of this report.
Well, one of the things that we're doing that's new for us at Detroit Future City when we release reports, we're going to be having community conversations about this, because we really feel like this kind of data and information is important enough to be able to follow up on at the community level. We really want people to understand debate, and challenge the information that's in the report, and to have that kind of healthy democratic conversation. But most importantly, the whole purpose of these reports is to make sure that everyone has access to the same kind of information that investors, developers, elected officials are making decisions about for Detroit.
Right. Equity has been a major concern of Detroit Future City, and also making sure that you're growing the middle class.
That's right.
Are we making progress with that?
I hope so. I think that what this report really points to are opportunities where there are middle class families can actually find a place in Detroit where they would want to make investment themselves, or if you are a middle class family in Detroit, that you're still wanting to stay, which is really the most important thing that comes from this kind of report. The equity piece, I think this effort to making sure that everyone is getting the same information so that they can make some decisions, we hope speaks to that equity piece, where people aren't feeling like only a small few really get access to this kind of data and information as opposed to everyone.
We've had some positive news from the Detroit public school system as of late. How much does that figure into the perceptions that people are having, as well as people deciding to come here, particularly young families, either come into Detroit or stay in the city of Detroit?
I think that's a really tough question. I think we still have a lot of work to do, not only within the image and perception of our public schools, making sure people understand that your children can get a quality education here. That was a really important point that we made in the African American Middle Class Report, where we tried to actually make the case that there are a number of schools here in Detroit that are doing as good as or better than many of the suburban schools. So this narrative, we were trying to really point to the fact that this narrative that all of DPS schools are bad is just not true. And I think DPSCD actually showed that this year with an increase in enrollment, highlighting so many of their programs that would actually meet the needs of a variety of student populations. And I think that that's a great point in the right direction. I think everyone is in alignment, right? Like, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We want the best quality schools for families that are already here, and quality schools that can attract families where you can feel like, yes, I can move my family to Detroit and my child can matriculate in DPS and be really successful. I think everyone wants that same thing. But I also think that it's not just the schools that's where there's an issue. We also have to then align what those neighborhoods what those neighborhoods look like, making sure that we have quality housing for families
and affordable housing.
And affordable for a variety of income levels, not just the very high end or the very low income. We have to have really quality housing for families as well.
All right, Anika Goss, thanks so much for coming in, bringing us up to date on this latest report.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys will be having your finger out there again, testing the waters.
Yep.
All right.
Keep a lookout for us.
Thanks so much. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Chuck.
it.
Okay.
That's it for today. Special thanks to the people over at Oakland University for their help with the interview with Lech Walesa. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.